Welcome back. If you are new around here, where you been? We come a long way. We're learning how to build resonators. We're on the build number 3. This is the brass build. Go back to last week and you'll see we got the sides all bent and ready to go on to the back, and we got the back all shaped. We got the shape of the back shaped. Let's call it that. So this week, what we need to do, I want to finish the body for this episode. Done. Like binding on it, the grills, those wood grills that we're gonna make. I want to get the wood grills in there. I want to get the binding on it and get the thing all soldered together and have a finished body, and then we can move on to the neck. I think that's doable. Mostly I think that's doable because I'm already partway through the work and I kind of know I'm already on track, and I'm really excited about this episode because things are coming out really nice, and I like it when things come out nice. And I hope you guys like it too. It's looking fantastic. Some of the stuff that we're gonna get done this week is gonna be super cool. So, okay, let's get to work. What are we starting with? I think we're gonna solder the sides to the back. I think that's step number 1. Here we go. Okay, I got this back pretty well sorted out and I'm pretty happy with how it's smoothed out. I need to mark on here the depth of the binding now so that I can get the sides all lined up on here perfectly and start soldering this together. So I think what I'm gonna do is just lay something flat across the top of the back and hold this piece of binding up against that flat thing and just draw my line on the bottom of the binding. If that doesn't make sense from the written explanation, you'll probably see and figure it out pretty quickly here as I show you what I'm doing. Then I can get the sides all lined up perfectly so that my binding looks great, and hopefully we can pull this binding off. You. Okay, I've got my edge taped all the way around so that it's level all the way around, and I'm ready to just sand up the sides a little bit where it gets soldered so the solder adheres to it really well. Put some flux on there and then try and get this one side lined up with the tape, and let's see if we can get it soldered on. Friends say you're the real deal, and your word good as gold. The truth is, there's very little to you at all. You can count me out. Okay, I've taken the tape off of the outside edge because I don't want to solder with the tape on. It just helped me get the flux on there without getting flux where I don't want it. And now I've pulled it off. So I'm just going to slowly work my way around soldering up to where it's tight, which is about right here. Then I'll reposition the clamps and just work my way around until I get to the top. I just want to make sure that it's nice and flush against the side, anywhere you solder. You don't want any gaps. Now that I have the sides soldered on, I can start to just check and make sure my taper, since it's taller back here than it is down here, I can just start to make sure my taper is even all the way around. This isn't like an acoustic guitar where you can lay it on the radius dish and just sand it, a bunch on the radius dish. It'd be pretty tough to do with the brass. So what I'm doing is using this flat template. I've got it inserted into the body, and I can see I'm a little bit high right back here. And I'm a little bit high right here on this corner. Okay, sides are on to the back. Looking good. The binding channel is all cleaned up. It looks great. I'll show you how the binding looks on there in a second. The inside looks great. Yeah, everything's come together really, really well so far. Okay, I just have it sort of loosely taped in place there, but you can see I think that binding is going to look cool. So that'll be on both the back and the top side. And then I think the neck wood will match this, and then there'll be a wedge back here that will also be that mahogany. Okay, just doing some preliminary test fitting to make sure the top is still matching the back and the sides and everything's good. And yeah, everything's good. So I think now what we got to do is make the grills, because we have to get the grills in before we can solder this top in. Okay, can a guy make these wooden grills that go into the top here with the wooden pieces that we made? Sort of like the grills that you see on that one up there. Actually, exactly like that, but just out of wood. So I think the hardest part is going to be seeing if I have the talent level to get the notches made in these little wooden sticks and get everything all straight and matching angles from one to the other and so on. It's going to be a pretty big layout exercise, I think. A little difficult to lay this out, get it all perfect, and make sure nothing's wonky about it, and then cut all those slots. It's going to be a bit of work, but I think let's tackle it and see if we can get the wood ones to work. If we don't, I think we'll make some woven brass ones. We'll see what we think of those. If we don't like those, then we got to come up with another idea. But I think whatever it is we do for these grills, they got to be really nice. I think the wood would look really nice, especially with the way the wood mahogany binding looked on the body. It just looks amazing. So yeah, hopefully we can get these out of wood. Okay, the first one's built. I think I'm going to glue it up, and then once it glues up, I can just sand the top and the bottom, make it all flat and perfect. It just took a long time. It wasn't really hard. It was just tedious cutting all those slots and getting it all together, but yeah, it turned out pretty good. Now I just got to make another one after this one's glued up. Well, those came out really good. They're super strong. I'm not worried about them being strong at all. They need a lot of sanding and cleanup. This one's a different color than that one because I just sanded this one, but I didn't sand that one yet. Anyway, I think I'm pretty happy with those. They came out nice. They look great. They're going to look excellent against the mahogany binding. So yeah, I'm calling that a win. I'm going to take full credit for that idea, even though it was Buck's, but it's mine. I get all the credit. Okay, I think my next goal here is to get these grills all cleaned up and sanded up. The inside edges have marks and stuff on them. It's going to take a long time to sand all these up clean and nice and pretty. The one thing I'm thinking though is that they're too thick. They're stronger than I thought they were going to be. They really aren't weak at all, so I'm not as worried about them breaking as I was originally thinking I was going to be worried about. I'm trying to decide on how I want to narrow those down. I'm thinking I'm just going to run them through the bandsaw and rip them down. So I ended up making quite a few of these grills just until I finally got the layout the way I wanted it. I think I had one of these that only had 5 of those, of the ones that go this direction. And then here's one of the ones that only has 3 going this direction. Yeah, anyway, they don't need to be this thick because they're super strong. So I think I'm going to run one of these test ones through the bandsaw and just rip it down and see what I think. That actually worked. It made me a little nervous. Okay, I am super nervous about this because I don't want to make more of these. I've made a lot of them and I'm tired of making them. Here goes our first good one. There you go. I was worried about stuff like that. Fortunately, it looks like I got lucky there and it didn't break, but yeah, that was what I was worried about. Okay, that wasn't pretty, but it worked. Scared the crap out of me, but it totally worked. Okay, moving on. These things are turning into quite the ordeal to make. Whose idea was this anyway? It couldn't have been my idea. Was this you, Buck? Are you the one that caused me all this heartache? These things are a hassle. I'm going to be sanding these for the next foreseeable future. I'll probably eat and sleep several times before this is done. Great. Oh yeah, this is hard. Wonder what Ted Nugent's doing today. Probably hunting with his bow and arrow or something cool like that. Okay, I've sanded up the back here so that the epoxy has something to bite into. I think I sanded the back with 120. I'm thinking this epoxy is going to be plenty strong. I tested it on that piece where I did the binding. I don't have any worries about the epoxy holding these grills in there strong. The key here is to just get them in clean without getting epoxy everywhere on the front side and without gluing it to my tabletop. Man, I'm glad I had the great idea to make these out of wood. I bet none of you guys out there would have ever thought of that. This is such a cool idea of mine. Taking all that credit. Yep. Okay, one thing I didn't do on this build, the one with the pickup in it, is I didn't put any kind of reinforcement on the side where the jack is. And I think I kind of wish I would have done that. Kind of a regret I had. So I'm going to I'm going to solder in a reinforcement on this brass one. I've already drilled a little pilot hole for where the jack will go, so I've got this all lined up. Got flux all over it, and yeah, I think I'm just going to solder that thing in real quick. So that will have some reinforcement to it. Okay, I overdid that a little bit. Sometimes when I try and get the camera in the right spot, I can't put my hands where I want them to be in solder and not block the shot. So sometimes I don't do as good at work because of this darn camera. Anyway, that'll clean up fine. It's a mess right now, but that'll turn out good. Okay, that piece is in there. And if you're ever wondering if that solder really does wick all the way through there, well, it's all dirty. The solder, it's all the way in the hole there where it was. So clearly it went through that whole plate and wicked all the way through the whole thing. So that's how you can tell that the flux is working and the solder is wicking into the areas that you need it to. Okay, before I solder this top into the body, the one thing I haven't checked yet is, does the pickup clear the little grills here? Okay, it fits. Barely fits, but it fits, so no work to do there. I think we're good to go to solder this top in. I need to check a couple things and just reassure myself. Well, that's the mess that soldering leaves behind. It turns the brass a weird color. Of course, I have the red ink on there that I used for marking how far up to make it for the binding. But you can see it turns it like this bronze color. I'm letting it cool right now for a little bit, and I'll just check it after it cools and just see if there's any spots that need some work. And then I think the top is soldered into this thing and we're getting close to doing binding. Okay, I've cleaned up from the solder job. I've got everything kind of rough sanded. You can see it's sanded pretty rough. I'm really excited about this body. This, I mean, I don't want to sound like, like arrogant or whatever, but this is the best body I've made so far. Of the three, it's just really good. All the tolerances here are just super tight. I mean, everything just came together so nice and clean. I guess the only thing that I would like to improve a little is this sound well. The two-piece is fine. It's plenty strong, and I'm sure it's going to work out great. I just don't like the aesthetics of it. I don't like having the seam in the sound well, but it is what it is. Now I think it's time to move on to binding, and I'm really looking forward to getting this binding on here because it's going to just make this whole body come together. So what I've done is I've got this strip here with 4 pieces that's going to make up my binding for the 4 sides. I'll probably make a couple extra too because I would imagine, I don't know, something may go wrong, and I'd rather just have one done and on hand than have to stop what I'm doing and make a whole nother one. But anyway, you can see what I did here. I just slotted it, and now I'm just going to slice this thing on the bandsaw, vertically, and just have these 4 strips. Well, truth be told, one thing that happened when I soldered the top into the sides, it melted the epoxy got hot enough that the epoxy actually failed. So I had to put more epoxy on there and clamp these up with little clamps. They're super strong now, so I'm not worried about them now. It was just the heat that caused the epoxy to fail. Okay, I've made some extras just in case we need them, and I think we're ready to start bending these on the side bender. We'll use heat and water, and we'll just slowly start working this over until it matches the template. So I'll probably get the template out here and put the template down and get the binding to match the template, and then we can go to town on gluing this binding onto the body, and then the body's done. Okay, the body won't be done. It'll be close to done. Well, I was doing really good there, and then broke it. So, first one broken. I guess that's why we made extras. Here we go, we're gonna have to try again. It really helps to take it off the heat and hold it there until it cools some. And then it'll keep its shape. Okay, I've got some tape on it just so it can dry in that shape for a little while, but that went really well. I mean, aside from the broken one, that went really well. Okay, now we just gotta make 3 more. Okay, I'm up to 3 bindings that are bent now. I've got 2 of the hard ones with the cutaway on them and 1 of the easy ones. One of the easy ones here, it's thicker than the others, so that one's gonna require a bunch of sanding, or maybe I just make another one that's thinner like these ones. It goes pretty fast, it hasn't been too hard. I just gotta make 1 more and then we can glue these on. Okay, good news and bad news. The good news is, look how darn good this body is. It just looks so good. The bad news is the binding's just not going as well as I would really hoping. This first side that I did over here, it went okay. It's not perfect. Everything was good, and then actually this one probably would have been okay, except I cracked it right here on the very end, and so I don't really have a way to fix that, and you'll never be able to hide that. So I don't know, I guess I'm gonna have to redo this binding. I definitely have to redo this other side because it just didn't go on anywhere near as good as the other one, and it's got all kinds of issues. So I don't know, a little bit struggling with the binding, but I think I'm gonna overcome that. I'm not super worried about it. None of it deters me from being excited about how good this body is. It's just great. I'm gonna make some more binding and give it another go. And you know, we can never get off easy with some of this stuff. Seems like just about everything we do, we always got to do it twice. All right, it seems like a bit of a bummer to leave us off hanging there because the binding didn't turn out perfect, but honestly, I don't even care because this body is just so good. I'm so happy with the quality of it that I don't mind having to redo some binding, and it's all part of the learning process. I think I said at the beginning, we're learning how to build these things. We're not experts yet. So there's another learning moment for us. Sometimes we have too many learning moments, but hey, it's all right. The only concern I have is I'm going to run out of this mahogany that matches these grills. And I really don't want to make any more of these grills. The binding is a piece of cake compared to making these grills. Having to notch both pieces, you know, you put a notch in one piece and a matching notch in the other, so they fit together. It's a lot of work. Those things were hard. I got my English wheel in. Amazon delivered it to the wrong house, and my neighbor brought it over, and he goes, "Here, I have this thing for you." And I was like, "Wow, you're a great neighbor. I always wanted an English wheel." He just looked at me funny, like, I don't know what an English wheel is. But anyway, I don't know when we're going to get to use it, but looking forward to that. I'm hoping it makes the job of making the back way easier than what it has been so far. I mean, there you go. We're going to have another learning moment with it. Okay. Really appreciate you guys following along and watching, commenting, everything you guys do. It's awesome. I mean, I really thank you. That's awesome. It makes it worth putting these videos out when I see all the comments and the help, and you guys are great. I really appreciate it. All right, we'll see you soon. I'm going to town. I'm making some new binding. I really wanted to show it just a nice, beautiful, done, finished body in this episode, but I guess it just didn't quite work out.